The United Torah Judaism quit Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government, bringing his coalition to the verge of collapse. Well, Israeli activist Jonny Daniels joins us now to explain what this means. So yeah, Jonny, what does this mean?
Look, I mean, it effectively puts the coalition with very, very, very thin margins. In Israel, the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, is made up of 120 seats. So it's not like the United States where you have two parties. In Israel, we have many parties. So the leader of the biggest group of parliamentarians comes together and forms a coalition. So the coalition that Netanyahu made was close to about 68 members, which included United Torah Judaism. With them leaving the coalition, it's now down to 61 members. And 61 members is a number that is on the verge of causing us a little bit of problems.
So walk us into Israeli politics. Why did they leave the coalition?
What we're seeing right now is a big internal argument in Israel regarding the draft of the ultra-Orthodox Jews, what we call the Haredi Jews. Now, up until now in Israel, there's been a status quo. And that status quo effectively means that those who are studying Torah, who are in a yeshiva or a place where they're learning, have the opportunity to sit back and not join the army. Their belief being that their studying of the Torah is of equal value to serving in the armed forces. However, since October 7th, where we've seen an incredible amount of Israeli society joining and rejoining the IDF, even as reservists, and some people out in reserve duty for 500-600 days almost by this point, the burden falls significantly on the rest of society. So there's a very strong feeling now that enough is enough, that these Orthodox Jews should too be serving and joining in the army. So this is kind of what we're seeing right now, is a point where we're getting very, very close to rules potentially being changed in Israel.
So what would happen if, I guess maybe one more seat fell? Would the government collapse? What does that look like?
Basically, what that means is that we go straight into another election cycle. The government would hold on to power until the next elections, and those elections would take place likely at the end of summer if this government was to fall. It is most likely that Netanyahu is able to keep hold of the 61 seats up through until the summer recess, which then puts us into the new year in around the end of August, September time, where from there we can see what goes forward.
So obviously here in the States, we have the two parties. It's pretty clear, when people say who's going to be the next Democratic nominee, names are thrown around, Gavin Newsom, whatever. Let's say in a hypothetical world that this government did collapse, who are some of the other people that could potentially become prime minister of Israel? I know this is many steps from now, but maybe just give us a couple names to keep in mind of, who might be, eventually when Netanyahu leaves the government, who are the next leaders that Israel has in its bullpen?
Well, according to all polling right now, what we'd see is that if the government did fall, then again, according to most recent polling, there is a strong chance that Netanyahu would be able to recreate and kind of bring a group in and come back as a prime minister again. However, there are others who are definitely eyeing the position. People like Naftali Bennett, who was a former prime minister, has a strong left-wing bloc that would join him in the creation of the next government. But from what we're seeing now, if we really did go to elections, we're almost definitely going to see a cycle like we did last time. Don't forget, the last time it took 4 elections until we were able to get this sorted.
Yeah, the going joke is, maybe you guys are too democratic when you have 4 or 5 elections in the span of 4 or 5 years, which is crazy. We have one every 4 years over here, and it tears things apart. But maybe last question, Jonny, this political instability inside Israel, how does that impact Israel's war in Gaza, Israel's conflict with Iran? There's just a lot of things happening with the Houthis. There's obviously conversations happening with Syria, the Druze, Jolani. There's just a lot happening. How does this political instability inside Israel affect the map at large?
I don't think it does. I think at large what we do is we see a situation in which, look, most Israelis, regardless of political party, are very much united in as much as, Hamas should not be in power, the Abraham Accord should be extended. It doesn't matter too much who our prime minister is. The most important part is that Israelis are united in our war in terms of backing the Israeli soldiers, and it wouldn't really matter who the prime minister was in terms of what moves forward in the future.
Jonny Daniels, thank you for your time, my friend.
Thank you, brother.